Earth declares Galaxy Empire forbidden to enter Terran space. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. It traveled across the stars at faster than light speed, carrying words that would change everything. In the headquarters of the Galactic Terran Alliance in Geneva, technicians stared at their screens with wide eyes. They had received messages from alien civilizations before, but never one like this. Secretary General Maria Santos sat in her office, reading the translated message for the third time. Her dark eyes narrowed with each word. Beside her stood Admiral Jackson Reeves, a tall man with gray hair and a face that had seen too many battles. He watched her carefully, waiting for her reaction. "They want us to become their servants," Maria said quietly. She looked up at the Admiral. "They actually think we should be grateful for this offer." The message was from the Calrexian Empire, the most powerful force in this region of the galaxy. They controlled over 10,000 worlds, their ships numbered in the tens of thousands. Their empire had existed for 12,000 years, long before humans had even discovered fire, and now they had noticed Earth. Admiral Reeves leaned forward and read the message again. The words were polite on the surface, but the meaning underneath was clear. High Ambassador Velcara of the Calrexian Empire offered Earth a chance to join as a protectorate species. Humans would pay tribute in resources and labor. They would accept imperial governors on their worlds. They would follow imperial laws. In exchange, the Empire would protect them and allow limited trade. Protection from what? Maria asked, her voice sharp. "We've been out here for 150 years and haven't needed their protection yet." "From them, most likely," the Admiral replied with a thin smile. "It's the oldest game in the book. Create the threat, then sell the solution." Maria stood and walked to the window. Below, the city of Geneva stretched out under a clear sky. Beyond that city were billions of humans living on Earth, Mars, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and dozens of colony worlds within 50 light-years. They had built all of this themselves without the Empire's help. "What do we know about them?" she asked. Admiral Reeves pulled up a holographic display. Images of Calrexian ships appeared, large and powerful, covered in armor and weapons. "They're strong. Very strong. Their technology is more advanced than ours in many ways. They have energy shields, faster FTL drives, and directed energy weapons that can cut through most known materials." "But," Maria heard the unspoken word in his voice. "But they're arrogant," the Admiral continued. "They've been the dominant power for so long that they've forgotten how to really fight. They roll over smaller civilizations with overwhelming force. Most species surrender without firing a shot." Maria turned back to face him. "And the ones that don't surrender? There haven't been many. The Empire made examples of the first few rebels thousands of years ago. After that, everyone else learned to submit." He paused. "There's something else you should know. 50 years ago, when we first started exploring beyond our solar system, we encountered a Calrexian scout ship. They tried to claim one of our mining colonies on Tau Ceti Prime." Maria's eyes widened. "I never heard about this. It was classified at the highest levels. Only a handful of people knew." Admiral Reeves pulled up another file. "The scout ship demanded that our miners leave immediately. When they refused, the Calrexians opened fire. They killed 37 people before our defense force arrived and destroyed their ship." "We destroyed an Imperial ship?" Maria felt her heart beat faster. "Yes, and we learned something important. Their ships are powerful, but they rely too much on their shields and energy weapons. They're designed to fight other ships like themselves. They weren't ready for kinetic weapons, physical projectiles moving at high velocity. Our missiles punched right through their shields." Maria absorbed this information. "So we've been preparing for this moment for 50 years. "Every day since," the Admiral confirmed. "We knew they would come eventually. We've built defenses, developed new weapons, trained our forces, all in secret. The Empire thinks we're primitive children playing with toys. They have no idea what we're really capable of." Maria made her decision. She sat down at her desk and activated the recording system. "Prepare a response. I want it transmitted on all Imperial frequencies." 2 hours later, the response was ready. Maria stood before the camera, wearing the formal uniform of her office. Behind her, the flag of United Earth hung on the wall. She looked directly into the camera and began to speak. "To High Ambassador Velcara and the Calrexian Empire, we have received your message and considered your offer carefully. Our answer is no." She paused, letting the word hang in the air. "Humanity does not kneel. We do not accept masters. We do not pay tribute. We are a free people and we will remain free. Your empire may control 10,000 worlds, but you will never control Earth or any human colony. We respectfully suggest that you leave us alone and direct your attention elsewhere." Maria leaned forward slightly. "Furthermore, we are establishing a protective zone around all human territories. Any Imperial ship that enters this zone without permission will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Earth and her colonies are off limits to the Calrexian Empire. Forever." She ended the transmission with a slight smile, as if the whole matter was rather amusing. The response from the Empire came within hours. High Ambassador Velkara appeared on the screen, her reptilian features twisted with anger. The Calrexians looked somewhat like Earth's ancient dinosaurs, with scaled skin and sharp teeth. Velkara's scales flushed a deep purple, a sign of extreme emotion in her species. "You dare to refuse the Empire?" she hissed. "You insignificant primitives. Do you have any idea who you are speaking to? We have crushed civilizations far more advanced than yours. We have burned worlds that defied us. You have 1 month, 30 standard days, to reconsider your foolish decision. If you do not submit by then, we will teach you the price of defiance." The transmission ended abruptly. Admiral Reeves looked at Maria. "They're coming." "I know," she replied calmly. "How long do we have?" "They'll send a punishment fleet first. Not their full military strength, just enough to crush what they think is token resistance. I estimate they'll arrive in 35 to 40 days. He pulled up tactical displays. "We have time to prepare." Over the next month, human space became a hive of activity. Every colony mobilized its defenses. Warships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and dark nebulae moved into position. Weapons platforms were activated along the boundary of Terran space. A 50-light-year sphere centered on Earth. The boundary was marked with warning buoys that broadcast in 47 different languages, including Calrexian. The message was simple. Galaxy Empire forbidden to enter Terran space. Violators will be engaged. On day 32, the sensors detected them. 200 Calrexian warships dropped out of FTL at the edge of human space. They were massive vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had built. They bristled with weapons and glowed with the energy of their shields. Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the TAS Defiance, humanity's flagship. Around him, crew members worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone was ready. "They're moving forward," the sensor officer reported. "They're not even slowing down." "Arrogant to the last," the Admiral muttered. He opened a channel to all human ships. "All units, this is Reeves. Hold your positions. Wait for my command. Let them come to us." The Imperial fleet crossed the boundary without hesitation. The warning buoys screamed their alerts, but the Calrexians ignored them. Admiral Reeves watched the display as the enemy ships penetrated deeper into the trap. Then he spoke 2 words that would echo across the galaxy. "Open fire." Earth declares Galaxy Empire forbidden to enter. Terran space. The first missiles launched from hidden positions scattered throughout the region. They had been waiting there for weeks, concealed in asteroid clusters and disabled satellites. To Imperial sensors, they had looked like nothing but space debris. Now they revealed their true purpose. Admiral Corseth of the Calrexian Empire stood on the bridge of his battleship, watching the human territory through his viewscreen. He was not worried. His fleet of 200 warships was more than enough to handle whatever primitive weapons these humans possessed. In his 400 years of service, he had never lost a battle. "Sir, we're detecting multiple launches," his tactical officer reported. "Projectile weapons. Hundreds of them." Corseth made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. "Missiles? How quaint. Activate shields. Their primitive explosives won't even scratch our armor." The missiles came in fast, much faster than the Calrexians expected. They weren't following predictable paths either. They swerved and dodged, making it difficult for the Imperial point defense systems to track them. Still, the Calrexians managed to destroy many of them before impact. But not all of them. The first missile hit an Imperial destroyer on its port side. The shield flared brightly, absorbing the impact. But the missile didn't explode. Instead, it punched through the shield like a knife through cloth and embedded itself in the ship's hull. Half a second later, it detonated from the inside. The destroyer broke apart in a brilliant explosion. "What?" Corseth stared in disbelief. "How did it penetrate our shields?" "Unknown, sir." The tactical officer's voice rose in panic. The projectile was solid matter, moving at extreme velocity. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, not physical objects at that speed. More missiles struck home. Imperial ships began to die, their shields useless against the kinetic warheads. Korseth realized too late that he had made a terrible mistake. These humans had studied the Empire's technology and found its weakness. "All ships evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Return fire!" The Imperial fleet opened up with their directed energy weapons, brilliant beams of coherent light that could melt through most known materials. They fired at the positions where the missiles had come from, destroying the hidden platforms. But the humans had more surprises ready. From behind the Imperial fleet, human warships decloaked. They were smaller than the Calrexian vessels, sleeker and faster. They moved with an agility that the massive Imperial ships couldn't match. Where Calrexian ships were designed to pound enemies into submission with overwhelming firepower, human ships were built to strike and fade away. Admiral Reeves watched from the bridge of the Defiance as his plan unfolded. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Hit them hard and don't stay still." The human fleet swept through the Imperial formation like wolves among sheep. They fired their kinetic weapons at close range, then used their superior maneuverability to dodge the return fire. The Calrexians tried to bring their heavy weapons to bear, but the humans were too fast, too unpredictable. One human destroyer, the Taas Retribution, flew directly beneath a Calrexian battleship and released a spread of mines. The mines attached themselves to the battleship's hull with magnetic clamps. 5 seconds later, they exploded in sequence, tearing open the ship's belly. Atmosphere vented into space and the battleship began to list to one side. Korseth felt fear for the first time in centuries. His fleet was being torn apart. He had lost 30 ships in the first 10 minutes of combat. His remaining vessels were scattered and confused, unable to form an effective defense. "Deploy the electronic warfare suite," he ordered. "Jam their communications. Blind their sensors." The Calrexians activated their jamming systems, filling space with interference. But the humans had anticipated this too. Their ships switched to laser-based communications, tight beam transmissions that couldn't be jammed. They continued to coordinate their attacks with perfect precision. A human cruiser, the Taas Vengeance, targeted Korseth's flagship. It fired a weapon the Calrexians had never seen before. A magnetic accelerator launched a solid tungsten rod at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectile crossed the distance in seconds. The rod hit the flagship's shield and simply passed through it, barely slowing down. It struck the ship's main reactor, and the resulting explosion tore the flagship in half. Korseth found himself floating in the wreckage, his command chair torn away by the blast. Emergency systems sealed his armor, providing him with air. He watched through the transparent faceplate as his fleet died around him. Human ships moved through the carnage like dancers, graceful and deadly. After 40 minutes of battle, the Imperial fleet was destroyed. Of the 200 warships that had entered human space, only 60 remained intact. Those ships fled back across the boundary, their captains too shocked to think of anything but survival. Korseth was rescued by one of the retreating ships. He sat in the medical bay staring at nothing. His career was over. His reputation was ruined. But worse than that, he had learned a terrible truth. Humans were not primitives. They were predators. When the surviving ships returned to Imperial space, they brought news that shocked the entire galaxy. The mighty Calrexian Empire, undefeated for thousands of years, had been humiliated by a species that most had never heard of. High Ambassador Velkara received the report in her chambers on the Imperial homeworld. She read it 3 times, unable to believe what she was seeing. 70% casualties. The fleet routed. Admiral Korseth disgraced and awaiting trial. She immediately contacted the Imperial Palace and requested an audience with the Emperor. Within an hour, she stood before the throne of Zarthul IX, the ruler of 10,000 worlds. Emperor Zarthul was ancient, even by Calrexian standards. He had ruled for 800 years, and in all that time no one had dared to challenge his authority. He listened to Velkara's report with growing anger. "Explain to me," he said slowly, his voice dangerous, "how 200 of our warships were defeated by these humans." Velkara chose her words carefully. "They used tactics we did not anticipate, Your Majesty. Their weapons are designed specifically to counter our defenses. They have clearly been studying us for some time. And you did not know this? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You assured me that these humans were backward, easy prey. I was mistaken, Your Majesty. Velkara bowed her head. I underestimated them. I will accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. You will not be punished, Velkara. You will be given a chance to redeem yourself. I am assembling a new fleet, 10 times larger than the first. 2,000 ships, including our dreadnoughts and carrier groups. This time we will crush these humans utterly, and you will witness their destruction personally. Velkara felt her blood run cold. 2,000 ships. The Emperor was sending a force large enough to conquer an entire sector. Against one species. Against Earth. As you command, Your Majesty, she said quietly. Back on Earth, Maria Santos stood in the Situation Room, watching the battle reports. The casualties were lighter than expected. Humanity had lost only 12 ships, with another 20 damaged. It was a tremendous victory, but Admiral Reeves did not look happy. They'll be back, he said grimly, and next time they'll bring everything they have. Maria nodded. How long do we have? 3 months, maybe 4. It takes time to assemble a fleet that size. They'll want to make sure they have overwhelming force. He pulled up projections. I estimate 2,000 ships minimum. Can we win against those numbers? Maria asked. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. If we fight them the same way, no. We'll need something new, something they won't expect. He looked at her. I have an idea. Project Maelstrom. We've been developing it in secret for years, but it's never been tested in actual combat. What is it? A weapon based on controlled micro-singularities. Artificial gravity wells that can tear ships apart from the inside. But it's dangerous. If we lose control, it could destroy our own forces too. Maria made her decision quickly. Proceed with Project Maelstrom. And Admiral, start recruiting. I want every able-bodied person trained and ready. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Across human space, the call went out. Millions volunteered for military service. Shipyards worked around the clock, building new vessels. Scientists and engineers refined their weapons, making them deadlier. Every colony became a fortress. Humanity prepared for the storm that was coming. Earth declares Galaxy Empire forbidden to enter. Terran Space Emperor Zarthul stood before the assembled War Council in the Grand Chamber of the Imperial Palace. Behind him, a holographic display showed the location of Earth and its colonies, a tiny cluster of stars that had become the Empire's greatest embarrassment. We will not make the same mistake twice, the Emperor declared. This time we send our finest commander with a fleet large enough to obliterate their entire civilization. From the shadows stepped War Master Thexral, a legend among the Calrexian military. He had fought in 40 campaigns and conquered rebellious systems across the galaxy. His scales were dark with age, and scars covered his body from countless battles. Where other commanders relied on overwhelming force, Thexral was known for his cunning and patience. Your Majesty, Thexral bowed deeply, I will bring you the humans' surrender. Or I will bring you their ashes. The Emperor nodded with satisfaction. You have 2,000 ships at your command. Dreadnoughts, carriers, battle cruisers. The finest vessels in the Imperial fleet. Do not disappoint me. I will not, Your Majesty. While the Empire prepared its armada, Thexral studied everything known about humans. He watched recordings of the first battle again and again, analyzing human tactics. He read reports from the few survivors who had escaped. He even interviewed the disgraced Admiral Corseth, who sat in a military prison awaiting his fate. They fight like nothing I've ever seen. Corseth told him through the prison's communication system. No honor, no formation, no predictable patterns. They strike from nowhere and vanish before you can respond. And their weapons, they know exactly how to hurt us. Did you notice any weaknesses? Thexral asked. Corseth thought for a long moment. Their ships are small, fast but lightly armored. A direct hit from our main weapons destroys them instantly. The problem is getting that hit. They're too quick, too agile. Thexral nodded slowly. Then we must find a way to slow them down. Over the next 3 months, the War Master prepared his strategy. He would not simply charge into human space as Corseth had done. He would advance carefully using scout ships and drones to detect traps. He would employ his own electronic warfare to disrupt human communications. And he would bring weapons specifically designed to counter human tactics. Meanwhile, the Emperor issued orders to other species in the galaxy. Any civilization that traded with Earth would face Imperial sanctions. Any ship caught supplying humans with resources would be destroyed. The Empire would strangle humanity economically while crushing them militarily. Most species obeyed immediately. The Calrexian Empire was too powerful to defy. But a few neutral worlds far from Imperial control quietly continued their trade with humans. They saw an opportunity. If the humans could weaken the Empire even slightly, it might create room for others to breathe. On Earth, Admiral Reeves stood in a secret facility deep beneath the surface of Mars. Before him, suspended in a magnetic containment field, was Project Maelstrom. It looked like a small black sphere, barely larger than a basketball, but the readings on the surrounding instruments showed the truth. Inside that sphere was a controlled singularity, a tiny artificial black hole. "Are we sure it's stable?" Maria Santos asked. She had traveled from Earth to see the weapon personally. "Stable enough," replied Dr. Sarah Chen, the physicist who had designed it. "The containment field keeps it from collapsing or expanding. When we release it near an enemy ship, it creates a localized gravity well. Anything within a kilometer gets pulled in and torn apart by tidal forces." "And if the containment fails?" Maria asked. Dr. Chen's expression was grim. "Then we have a runaway singularity that could consume everything around it, including our own ships. That's why we've only built 5 of them. They're weapons of last resort." Admiral Reeves studied the black sphere. "If the Empire brings 2,000 ships, we'll need every advantage we can get. How long until we can deploy them?" "They're ready now," Dr. Chen replied. "But Admiral, please use them carefully. This technology, it scares me. We're playing with forces we don't fully understand." "War is full of things we don't fully understand," Reeves said quietly, "but we'll be as careful as we can." The next 2 months passed in tense preparation. Human colonies were evacuated of non-essential personnel. Children and elderly citizens were sent to the safest worlds, far from the probable battle zones. Defensive platforms multiplied along the border, hidden in every possible location. Human ships drilled constantly, practicing the hit-and-run tactics that had worked so well in the first battle. Finally, the sensors detected them. 2,000 Calrexian warships appeared at the edge of human space. But this time they did not rush forward. They advanced slowly, methodically, sweeping space ahead of them with every sensor they possessed. War Master Thexeral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Domination, and studied the reports. "They have weapons platforms hidden throughout this region. Find them all before we advance further." It took 3 days. The Imperial fleet sent out thousands of drones, small automated ships that searched every asteroid and debris field. When they found a hidden weapons platform, they destroyed it from a safe distance. Thexeral was in no hurry. He would not fall into the same traps that had destroyed Corseth's fleet. Admiral Reeves watched the Imperial advance from the Defiance. "They've learned," he said to his staff. "This commander is smart. He's taking his time. Why should we attack now?" asked Captain Williams, his second-in-command. "No, let them think they're being clever. Let them destroy the outer platforms. Those are just the bait." Reeves pulled up a tactical map. "We let them penetrate to here, the Kepler belt. Then we spring the real trap." The Kepler belt was a region of space thick with asteroids and ice, located 30 light-years from Earth. Human forces had spent months fortifying it, building hidden bases inside the larger asteroids and positioning their strongest weapons platforms there. If the Empire wanted to reach Earth, they would have to go through the Kepler belt. Thexeral's fleet advanced into the belt cautiously. His sensors detected human ships ahead, taking defensive positions among the asteroids. He smiled coldly. "They're going to make their stand here. Good. We have the numbers to overwhelm them." He divided his fleet into 3 groups. The first group would engage the human ships directly. The second would flank them from above. The third would sweep around below, cutting off any retreat. It was a classic encirclement tactic, one that had won Thexeral dozens of victories. "All units advance on my command," he ordered. "Remember, our shields have been recalibrated to better handle their kinetic weapons. We will not be as vulnerable as before." The battle began as the first Imperial group moved forward. Human ships opened fire immediately, their missiles and railguns hammering at the Calrexian shields. This time the shields held better, though they still flickered and weakened under the impacts. Thexeral nodded with satisfaction. "Return fire. Target their ships, not the asteroids. I want prisoners to parade before the Emperor. The Imperial fleet unleashed a devastating barrage. Their energy weapons lit up space, brilliant beams that could burn through almost anything. Several human ships were hit and destroyed instantly, just as Corseth had predicted, but then Admiral Reeves gave the order he had been waiting to give. Activate Maelstrom, all units. From 5 different positions in the Kepler belt, the containment fields deactivated. The micro-singularities were released. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Space itself seemed to twist and distort around each singularity. Imperial ships that were too close found themselves pulled irresistibly toward the black spheres. Their engines screamed at maximum power, but it was not enough. One by one, they were drawn in. The ships didn't simply disappear into the singularities. They were torn apart by tidal forces first, stretched and compressed until their hulls ruptured and their crews died. Debris swirled around each singularity in a deadly dance, colliding and breaking apart further. Thex Ral watched in horror as he lost 30 ships in the first minute. What is that? What weapon are they using? Unknown, Warmaster. His science officer shouted over the alarms. It appears to be some form of artificial gravity well. Our ships can't escape once they're too close. Pull back. All units retreat to safe distance. Thex Ral's mind raced. These humans had weapons that defied everything he knew about warfare. They had turned the laws of physics themselves into instruments of death. The Imperial fleet pulled back, but the damage was done. The singularities continued to pull in debris and ice from the asteroids, growing slightly larger with each bit of matter they consumed. Human forces used the confusion to launch a massive counterattack, their ships darting through the chaos to strike at vulnerable Imperial vessels. Earth declares Galaxy Empire forbidden to enter. Terran space, the battle raged for 3 days. Warmaster Thex Ral tried every tactic he knew, but the humans adapted to each one. When he sent waves of fighters to overwhelm human defenses, they activated hidden point defense networks that filled space with defensive fire. When he tried to use his electronic warfare systems, human ships switched to hardened communications that couldn't be jammed. When he attempted to flank their positions, they revealed more hidden weapons platforms. The micro-singularities were the worst. Dr. Chen's team had programmed them to move slowly through space, herding Imperial ships into kill zones where human forces could destroy them more easily. Thex Ral lost ship after ship to these invisible predators. On the 3rd day, with his fleet reduced to less than 800 ships, Thex Ral made the hardest decision of his career. He ordered a full retreat. The remaining Imperial vessels fled back across the border, leaving behind wreckage and the bodies of thousands of Calrexian warriors. Thex Ral sat in his command chair, wounded and exhausted. A human missile had struck his flagship, and the explosion had sent shrapnel through the bridge. He had taken a piece of metal to his chest, and despite medical treatment, he knew he was dying. He recorded one final message to the Emperor, his voice weak but clear. Your Majesty, I have failed you. The humans are not like any enemy we have faced before. They fight like demons because they are demons. We have awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. They do not fight for glory or conquest. They fight for survival, and that makes them more dangerous than anything in the galaxy. He paused, coughing blood. My advice, Your Majesty, is to leave them alone. Make peace with them. Give them their space and accept that we cannot conquer them. But I know you will not take this advice. Your pride will not allow it. So I say this. When you send the next fleet, send everything. Because anything less will fail. Thex Ral died 6 hours later, his flagship limping back to Imperial space. The news of humanity's second victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved and conquered species heard the story and began to wonder. If humans could defeat the Empire twice, what did that mean? Was the Empire truly invincible? Or had they simply been too afraid to try? On the Gentari homeworld, deep in Imperial territory, a resistance leader named Kex Toral gathered his followers in a secret meeting. The Gentari had been conquered 200 years ago. They had fought bravely but were overwhelmed by Imperial numbers. Since then, they had served the Empire, providing labor and resources, always dreaming of freedom but never daring to rebel. The Empire can be beaten, Kex Toral said to his followers. The humans have proven it twice. But the humans have powerful weapons, one of his followers objected. We don't have anything like their ships or their technology. We don't need to match their weapons, Kex Toral replied. We just need to show the same courage. If we rise up and others rise up, the Empire will be forced to divide its forces. They can't fight wars on 100 fronts at once. Within weeks, sabotage incidents began across Imperial space. Factories producing war materials mysteriously exploded. Supply convoys were ambushed. Imperial governors found themselves targets of assassination attempts. It was nothing coordinated yet, just individual acts of defiance from species that had been silent for generations. 3 major client kingdoms, civilizations that had willingly joined the Empire in exchange for protection and trade, declared their independence. The Kingdom of Vexthar, the Confederation of Talsin, and the United Clans of Mortek all announced they were leaving the Empire. They cited humanity's resistance as inspiration. Emperor Zarthul watched his empire begin to fracture, and his rage grew. In 1 month, he had lost control of dozens of systems. Rebellion was spreading, and it was all because of one small species that refused to submit. In the Imperial Palace, High Ambassador Velkara made a decision that would change her life forever. She had watched 2 fleets fail against humanity. She had seen the Empire's invincibility shattered, and she had begun to question everything she believed. Late one night, she accessed the Imperial Intelligence Archives and downloaded everything related to human space. Maps, communications, tactical analysis, everything. Then she boarded a small, fast ship and fled toward human territory. 3 days later, she transmitted a message on human frequencies. "This is High Ambassador Velkara of the Calrexian Empire. I wish to defect. I have information that may help you. Please do not fire on my ship." The message was received by a human patrol ship near the border. The captain was suspicious, but Admiral Reeves ordered that Velkara be brought to Earth under guard. Maria Santos met the Calrexian ambassador in a secure facility in Geneva. Velkara looked different from her previous transmissions. Her scales were dull and she moved like someone carrying a heavy burden. "Why should we trust you?" Maria asked directly. "You called us primitives. You supported the invasion." "Because I was wrong," Velkara replied simply. "I spent my entire life believing the Empire was righteous, that we brought order to chaos. But watching your people fight for their freedom opened my eyes. The Empire doesn't bring order. It brings slavery." She activated a data device and projected maps and documents. "The Emperor is preparing a 3rd attack. This time he won't send a fleet to conquer you. He'll send a fleet to destroy you. He's activating ancient weapons from the Empire's founding wars. Planet killers. Weapons that can crack worlds apart." Maria felt ice in her veins. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because you deserve to live," Velkara said quietly. "And because I hope that if you survive, you might help free others from the Empire's grip. My people and dozens of others are prisoners of a system that has existed for too long. You've shown that it can be broken." Admiral Reeves studied the data Velkara had brought. "These planet killer weapons, are they operational?" 3 of them are being prepared now," Velkara confirmed. "They're called World Breakers. Ancient dreadnoughts from the era when the Empire was first expanding. They each carry a weapon that can destabilize a planet's core, causing it to tear itself apart from the inside." Maria made her decision quickly. "We can't wait for them to bring those weapons to us. We have to strike first." Admiral Reeves nodded. "Agreed. But striking Imperial territory is different from defending our own space. We'll be going deep into enemy territory and we'll be outnumbered." "Then we don't fight their main fleet," Maria said. "We go after their shipyards. If we can destroy where they build their ships, we cripple their ability to make war." Over the next week, human intelligence identified 3 major Imperial shipyards. These facilities produced the majority of the Empire's warships. They were heavily defended, but they were also far from the main Imperial fleet, which was gathering to invade human space. Admiral Reeves assembled a strike force of 200 ships, fast raiders and heavy cruisers. He divided them into 3 groups, each targeting 1 shipyard. The mission was simple: get in, destroy the shipyards, and get out before Imperial reinforcements could arrive. "This is going to be dangerous," he told his captains in the briefing. "We're hitting them in their own territory. Some of us won't be coming back, but if we succeed, we buy humanity time, maybe even peace." Captain Jennifer Park of the TASS Resolute raised her hand. "What about civilians?" "These shipyards probably have thousands of workers. We send evacuation warnings 30 minutes before the attack," Reeves replied. "Anyone who wants to leave will have time. We're not monsters. We don't kill civilians if we can avoid it." The three strike groups launched simultaneously, using newly developed FTL drives that were faster than Imperial sensors could track. They appeared in Imperial space without warning, each group materializing near their target. At the Corval shipyard, one of the largest in the Empire, alarms began screaming as human ships appeared from nowhere. Station Commander Dalresh stared at his displays in shock. How did they get here? This is 10 systems deep into Imperial space. The human ships broadcast their warning. Evacuation alert. This facility will be destroyed in 30 minutes. All personnel should evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Dalresh wanted to laugh at the audacity, but he saw the human ships positioning themselves around the shipyard. They were serious. He gave the order to evacuate. Workers fled to escape pods and transport ships, streaming away from the station in a panic. 28 minutes later, the human ships opened fire. Missiles and railgun rounds tore into the shipyard structure. Explosions blossomed across the massive facility. Within 10 minutes, the shipyard was a twisted wreck, useless for building anything ever again. The other two strike groups had similar success. By the end of the day, 3 of the Empire's largest shipyards were destroyed. The human forces had lost 32 ships in the raids, but they had dealt the Empire a crippling blow. But Admiral Reeves had one more message to deliver. Before the strike groups returned to human space, they broadcast a transmission across all Imperial frequencies. The message showed footage of human soldiers helping Calrexian workers escape, human medics treating wounded Imperial personnel, and the destruction of military targets while civilian areas were left untouched. And then Maria Santos spoke, her face appearing on screens across the Empire. "We are not your enemies. We don't want to conquer Earth, declares Galaxy Empire, forbidden to enter Terran space." Emperor Zarthul watched the human broadcast in his throne room, surrounded by his advisors and generals. The destruction of the shipyards had cost the Empire years of production capacity. Worse, the human message was spreading across Imperial space, inspiring more rebellions. But what truly enraged the Emperor was the humiliation. These humans had struck at the heart of his empire and escaped. They had shown mercy to his workers while destroying his military assets. They were making him look weak. "No more," the Emperor hissed. "I will lead the fleet myself. I will personally oversee the destruction of Earth." His advisors exchanged worried glances. No emperor had led troops into battle in over 3,000 years. It was considered too dangerous, too risky, but none of them dared to object when they saw the madness burning in Zarthul's eyes. "Gather every ship we have left," the Emperor commanded, "and prepare the world breakers. We will jump directly into their solar system, bypassing their outer defenses. When we arrive at Earth, I will give them one final chance to surrender. If they refuse, I will activate the world breakers and turn their precious homeworld into rubble." Within 2 weeks, the Emperor's fleet was ready. 500 warships, including the 3 ancient world breaker dreadnoughts. They were massive vessels, each one 5 kilometers long, built in an age when the Empire conquered through terror. Their main weapons could crack planets apart by firing resonance beams into a world's core, causing catastrophic geological collapse. The fleet used an ancient FTL technology that few in the modern empire even understood. It allowed them to jump much farther than standard drives, but it was dangerous and unpredictable. When the fleet activated their drives, they simply vanished from Imperial space and reappeared in Earth's solar system, between Mars and Jupiter. Alarms screamed across human space. Admiral Reeves was in a strategy meeting on Mars when the news came through. "Admiral, Imperial fleet detected in the inner system. 500 ships, including 3 massive unknowns." Reeves felt his blood run cold. They had bypassed every defense, every warning system. They were already at humanity's doorstep. "Get me Secretary General Santos," he ordered, "and activate every defense platform in the solar system. This is it. They've come for Earth itself." Maria Santos was at dinner with her family when the alert came. She kissed her daughter and husband, knowing she might never see them again. Within an hour, she was in the command center deep beneath Geneva, watching the Imperial fleet take up positions around Earth. Then a transmission came through. Emperor Zarthul himself appeared on the screen. He was old, ancient even by Calrexian standards, but his eyes burned with determination. "Humans of Earth," the Emperor spoke slowly, "you have defied me for the last time. I am here in your home system, with the power to end your civilization. I offer you one final chance. Surrender now, unconditionally, and I will be merciful. I will allow your species to continue as servants of the Empire. Refuse, and I will activate the World Breakers. Behind him, the 3 massive dreadnoughts were visible on the display. You have 1 hour to decide. Maria looked at Admiral Reeves. Can we win this? The Admiral studied the tactical displays. The human home fleet had 200 ships, and there were thousands of defense platforms scattered throughout the solar system. But 500 Imperial ships plus those world breakers made the odds difficult. Maybe, he said quietly, but Earth will be damaged in the fighting. A lot of people will die. Maria took a deep breath. Then she activated the communication system to respond to the Emperor. Emperor Zarthul, she began, and her voice was calm and strong. You came to our home. You threatened our cradle, the world where humanity was born. That was a mistake. She leaned forward and her eyes were hard as steel. Did you really think we wouldn't prepare for this exact scenario? You're not the first to threaten Earth. Throughout our history, we've faced extinction again and again. Asteroids, ice ages, plagues, wars. Each time we survived. Each time we became stronger. Maria smiled coldly. You wanted to see what makes humanity dangerous? Let me show you. She gave a signal, and across the solar system, hidden systems activated. The Emperor's fleet suddenly found themselves surrounded by weapons platforms that hadn't been there a moment before. They had been hidden on asteroids disguised as space debris, concealed inside moons, thousands of them. Every asteroid in the belt, every large rock floating in space, every moon and satellite, all of them revealed weapons. The solar system itself had become a weapon. Welcome to the Sol system, Maria said. The most heavily defended location in known space. We've had 150 years to prepare for someone like you. And now you're going to learn why you should have left us alone. Admiral Reeves was already giving orders. All ships, attack formation. Target the world breakers first. Every defense platform, focus fire on those 3 ships. Ignore everything else. If those dreadnoughts die, the Emperor loses his leverage. The Emperor realized too late that he had walked into a trap. He had expected to arrive with overwhelming force and dictate terms. Instead, he found himself in the middle of a kill zone surrounded by enemies. All ships defend the world breakers, he commanded. Activate their shields at maximum power. The battle that followed was the most intense in human history. The Imperial fleet tried to form a defensive perimeter around the 3 dreadnoughts, but human forces attacked from every direction. Defense platforms fired from the asteroid belt. Ships swooped in from Mars and the outer planets. Weapons hidden on Earth's moon opened up with devastating barrages. The 3 world breakers were powerful, but they were also old. Their shields were strong, but not designed for this kind of concentrated fire. Thousands of missiles and railgun rounds hammered at them simultaneously. Admiral Reeves personally led the assault on the Emperor's flagship, which was positioned near the largest world breaker. The Defiance and 50 other human ships formed a spear of steel and fire, driving straight through the Imperial formation. All power to forward shields, Reeves ordered. Ram speed. If we can't shoot through them, we'll punch through them. The Defiance shook as Imperial fire struck its shields. Warning alarms screamed. Systems overloaded, but the ship kept going, its engines burning at maximum. Behind it, other human ships followed, creating a corridor through the Imperial fleet. They reached the world breaker and unleashed everything they had. Nuclear missiles, kinetic rounds, plasma torpedoes. The ancient dreadnought's shields flickered under the assault. Then they failed. Without its shields, the world breaker was vulnerable. Human ships swarmed it like wolves, bringing down a great beast. They targeted its engines, its weapons, its command structure. Explosions rippled across its hull. Admiral Reeves saw an opportunity. The Emperor's flagship was close, too close to the dying world breaker. If he could destroy the world breaker in the right way, the explosion might take out the Imperial flagship too. Target the world breaker's reactor, he ordered. Full salvo. Everything we've got left. Sir, that will create a massive explosion, Captain Williams objected. We're too close. We'll be caught in the blast, I know, Reeves replied calmly. He activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the Admiral. It's been an honor serving with you. Today we make sure Earth survives. Today, we win. The Defiance fired its last weapons directly into the world breaker's reactor core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive dreadnought simply exploded, a detonation so powerful it lit up the entire solar system. The explosion consumed the world breaker, the Emperor's flagship, and the Defiance itself. Emperor Zarthul had just enough time to realize he had lost before the fire took him. With the Emperor dead and their flagship destroyed, the Imperial fleet fell into chaos. The remaining two worldbreakers tried to retreat, but human forces were relentless. One was destroyed by fire from Mars's defense platforms. The other was disabled by a spread of nuclear mines and boarded by human marines. The surviving Imperial ships surrendered within 3 hours. Maria Santos stood in the command center, tears streaming down her face. Admiral Reeves was gone. So many others were gone. But Earth still stood. Humanity had survived. The news of the Emperor's death spread across the galaxy instantly. The Calrexian Empire, which had stood for 12,000 years, began to fracture. Without the Emperor's iron will holding it together, the various systems and sectors began to declare independence. Within months, the Empire had split into dozens of successor states, some democratic, some autocratic, but none with the power to threaten Earth. Species that had been enslaved for generations rose up and claimed their freedom. The Gentari, the Talsin, the Vexthar, and dozens of others. A new era began in the galaxy, one where freedom was possible. Maria Santos addressed the galaxy 6 months after the battle. She spoke from the rebuilt command center in Geneva, with Velkara standing beside her as the new Calrexian ambassador. "Today we announce the formation of the Terran Compact," Maria said, "an alliance of free species dedicated to mutual defense and cooperation. We will never seek to conquer or dominate others, but we will defend ourselves and our allies against an